Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we'll be doing our off-season preview for the Portland Trail Blazers. They recently extended Chauncey Billups. I was actually at the Portland Trail Blazers game against the Warriors as a media member, and it was cool being at the Rose Garden, aka the Moda Center, and it was Ryan Rubin and Delano Banton's show that game, and I guess CD Sissoko technically had his best game. It was really not. Deni Avdija, Scoot Henderson, and Shaedon Sharpe. Everyone except Donovan Clingan was out that game. But it was cool. And because I was around for Nike Hoop Summit covering it, I got to interact a little bit with Chauncey Billups. First off, him and I are like the same height, like same size. I'm taller than him because as you get older, you shrink. He's probably like 5'11", 6 foot now. I'm like 6'1". It's like, but either way, was surprised at how not like average, but like I was surprised that his presence. Also really nice dude, and just kind of like one of the most genuine guys. We're very much reminded me of my father, but like in a respect, and like professors I've had where you're just like, okay, you come off very knowledgeable, you clearly have like very high emotional intelligence, you know how to like deal with personalities. And I've always respected the X's and O's of him, and always said that he was dealt a pretty crappy hand, as he was supposed to coach Dame, CJ, and I believe his first season was Dame's core muscle injury, and that was supposed to be like the last year before they threw in the towel, but then they couldn't do that because Dame didn't get a full season, and they got themselves, I think, Shaedon Sharpe as a result of that. And then the following year, Dame was pretty legit, and he was back, and like he looked healthy again, but there was just rumors persisting all year, and it wasn't like a legit roster. So then he was dealt like a weird rebuilding team that now is finally starting to have clarity, as they have kind of hedged to timelines. I do think Anthony Simons is on his way out. I've personally been told Orlando is where he's going to end up. He's from Central Florida. He wants to go home, and there's mutual interest from Orlando, as Orlando has defensive guys, but they don't have an offensive. But I mean, Anthony Black, I personally think, is playing great, and I've always thought he's had a higher ceiling than people have suggested. So, and I think he's proving that. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw in the towel on Jalen Suggs and maybe say, hey, Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, and maybe whatever. I think that should get the deal done from a salary standpoint. For Anthony Simons, it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, you'd be a little guard heavy if the Blazers maybe make it a multi-team deal. Doesn't have to be those players necessarily, but that's the idea. I mean, Simons did average 19, 5 assists, and 36% from three, and shot league average 55% true shooting. So that one's definitely interesting, as he's a guy who I think can be a microwave scorer and a floor spacer. I think he's more of an undersized combo guard with point guard like skills, even though he's improved as a playmaker for others. Then they have their swingman, explosive jumper, and Shaedon Sharpe, who averaged 19, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot 31% from three, but 55% true shooting. So his 3-point shot is a work in progress. However, he takes a good enough shot, like he takes enough of his shots at the rim that I think he still has some budding star potential. Toumani Camara is one of my favorite players on this team. I think he should be. Hopefully he is. All defensive team, probably second team. And he highlights as a 3-and-D multi-positional player. I think he can play the 2, the 3, or the 4. 11.6 rebounds, 1.5 steals, shot 37% from three, 57% true shooting. And you guys know we are a big Deni Avdija channel here. We've been following Deni Avdija since before the draft. He was at Nike Hoop Summit, but me being a journalist and having gone to journalism school and having a master's degree and a bachelor's degree in journalism, I'm not going to go over and fanboy him. I was actually hoping he played in the game, and I was going to set up a one-on-one interview for Hoops Hype. That did not happen, alas. However, as they ended the year, he was, I think the ending stats were almost over 20 points a game, like close to 10 rebounds and like 6 assists a game. He was also, if he carries that end of the year to an all-star level, or that stat line to the next year, that's all-star level production. And one of the best bargain contracts, and they underpaid and got him for a steal. He also weighs 240 pounds now at 6'9", which is absurd. I think he came in at like 210. So the fact that he put on 30 pounds as a do-it-all wing who had a strong year as a primary creator, averaging 17, 7, and 4, shooting 36% from 3, almost 37%. So DeAndre Ayton is an expiring contract, so they could finally move on from him if they want, either by trade or buyout, or just keep him as a backup or starter, bridge guy. 14.5 points, 10 rebounds, 56% from the field. It's whatever. Scoot Henderson's coming together. He's not the Russell Westbrook 2.0, but he's, I personally think, a developing lead guard. 13 points, 5 assists, 35% from 3. He's crafty, getting to the rim, but he creates for others. His 3-point shot's falling, and he plays within the game. And I think John C. Billups is the perfect coach to develop him. Look, Jeremy Grant might be one of the hardest contracts to move. People thought it was Zach LaVine's, but Jeremy Grant clearly lost a step. I think they overpaid him to keep Dame happy, but that didn't do anything. And every facet of his game just looks like a little bit worse. And he ended the season shooting 52% true shooting, I believe. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? I don't want to be too hard on him, but he was a veteran two-way player who now's been like reduced to a role player and a situational starter. Donovan Clingan's the truth. He had the most rebounds in franchise history for a rookie. 20 minutes a night, 6.5 points, 8 rebounds, 1.6 blocks. It's a rim protector and a rebounder who at the very least is gonna, in my opinion, is the bigger, more mobile, and I think higher upside version of Jakob Poeltl, which is like at least a top 10, close to a 10 center. Now, if it all comes together, he could be like on this Rudy Gobert trajectory. Guys, Delano Banton's just like a wing guard who loves to shoot. Like, yeah, he averaged 8 points a game and 2.5 assists, but it wasn't pretty. I don't think it's pretty. Robert Williams, when he's healthy, which is the big if, is actually still solid as a veteran shot blocker. 18 minutes a night, 6 points, 6 rebounds, almost 2 blocks. Like, fantastic. Guys, is this rude if I say Chris Murray's cheeks? I don't, like, the glass half full on him is he's like a developing wing with a little bit of a defensive edge. He's clearly the worst twin. Like, he's the evil twin. He's the twin that sucks. If you ever seen the movie Twins, he's the Danny DeVito sperm, and Keegan's the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jabari Walker, I like him. He's efficient at his role, and he's an energy guy. Like, those are the guys you fill out the back end of a bench with. Matisse Thybulle missed like all year with ankle injury, but he came in and did Matisse Thybulle's things. Like, he didn't miss a beat, so I think that's good. And I think that has trade value if you want to move him or you keep him if he's healthy. 21 minutes a night in his limited games. And he shot 43.8%, obviously, on a small sample size. 2.5 steals almost, 8 points. He's still the defensive ace. People forget he was like, 3-time all defense in his first 4 years. Dupe Reith is another person that is on a cheap contract. I think fantastic. But I like him more than DeAndre Ayton. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more trade interest. You could probably get more draft capital for Dupe Reith than DeAndre Ayton. He can stretch the floor a little bit, and he plays with energy in short bursts. I'm going to be honest. CD Sissoko and Ryan Rubert, I don't see like long-term potential there. Same thing with Justin Minya. I think Tajay Moore could be something in terms of like at least a role player who's an energy guy in short bursts as an end of the bench role. Maybe same thing with Bryce McGowan's as a situational scorer. But yeah, the youth movement around Sharpe, Henderson, Kamara, and Klingon give them a promising young building blocks. I think the veteran anchors and Deni Avdija and potentially Matisse Thybulle, I guess you could really throw in as a veteran at this point. Would we say he's a veteran? I guess Simons, if they keep him. And then, like I said, I think Walker and Reith are some good bench energy that gives them situational versatility. And they got front court depth. I think there's a lot of pieces there that work. They'll have money. Let's say in an ideal world, you dump Jeremy Grant in Brooklyn. Now, would you just straight up be dumping him and just hoping he eats him and you send draft capital there? Maybe. I also think in an ideal world, if you can package both DeAndre and Jeremy Grant and draft capital for Nick Claxton, this way Nick Claxton and Donovan Klingon can be your center rotation. And then as you extend Klingon and you kind of do the Clint Capella and Nyeko Kongu approach. So by the time Klingon's contract starts, the last year of his rookie year will be the final year of Claxton. So you either trade him or let him just walk in free agency, which would just be dumb. So you would just trade him, even if it means extending him and then trading him. But unless he falls off a cliff like Clint Capella and you just let him go. Because, yeah, the last year of Klingon's deal would be the fourth season of Klingon's career. Or Claxton. Yeah, Claxton and Klingon's, they're on the same timeline. And he makes $27 million. Now, that's where the money gets hard, where you could maybe try to see like, oh, Claxton and Cam Johnson packaged together for a big deal. And that's actually like an insane, and this is hypothetical. And the thing I'm trying to push here is like, that's the type of deal where if you bring Claxton and Cam Johnson, and we already said the starting lineup of Scoot, Deni, you would probably, Shaedon, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, then you have Tumani Kamara, Donovan Klingon. If you trade Anthony Simons for, let's say, to Orlando, as this could be a huge deal where 32 million, that's $67 million you'd be trading. And in the Claxton deal, that would be with Cam Johnson, $49 million. So you technically still have $18 million to play with. And we already said it, you would try to trade Anthony Simons, who that this season he's making, I think 25. Next year he goes up to 27, if I'm correct. He does go up to 27. So you could look at a multi-team trade or just two trades in an offseason, where one, like you do the Orlando trade, and obviously you give up a bunch of draft capital. But as I said, now you have Deni Avdija at small forward, Cam Johnson at power forward, Claxton at center, shooting guard, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoop. Then you put at backup Donovan Klingon. You can keep Matisse Thybulle and Tamani Kamara, 2 point of attack defenders to join Deni Avdija, who's a solid defender. And I feel like, I mean, you still have to do Breathe if you in this hypothetical situation, but that's the whole point, is like the world is their oyster in this, and you still could have Robert Williams or trade him. I like that. And going over here now, we talked about the Claxton deal and the Cam Johnson, where maybe you throw 2 first-round picks, 1 first-round pick for Cam Johnson, and another first-round pick to eat the salaries of DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, and then you give them whatever young player they want besides Shaedon, Sharpe, and Scoot Henderson and Donovan Clingan, which you turn to Orlando, and you can even say, like, okay, is there somebody like Orlando, as I said, Cole Anthony with, I think what I said earlier, the Jalen Suggs. If you did a trade for Jalen Suggs, I think you would not be doing any of these other trades. So if you included Orlando in this deal, where they would maybe want to be like, oh, we leave Jalen Suggs and we would want to have like a yin-yang, 1 offense, 1 defense guy, you could really look at this in a way that it ends up being maybe a combination of salaries that are like Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac to give you even more defense, or Cole Anthony. I think they would want to keep Contavious Caldwell-Pope just because they're already like so bad at 3-point shooting. They just want that depth. Gary Harris, Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, and as we said, there's $18 million to play with, so they could just eat that. And I think that's actually something that's likely. They could pick up the team options on Corey Joseph and Caleb Houston, which would give them $5.5 million extra dollars to add in there. So I would do that. Pick up Caleb Houston and Corey Joseph and Gary Harris's team options, which would end up putting you at $13 million with the 13.1 of Cole Anthony. That's 26.1 for Anthony Simons. Perfect. Now you have Anthony Simons, Jalen Suggs, and Anthony Black. And then if you really want to trade Jalen Suggs down the road, Anthony Black is the guy that you re-sign, and you have Black and Simons down the road, or Black and Suggs if Simons doesn't work out. And then, like I said, you basically trade Ayton and Jeremy Grant for, I think, perfectly Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton. Like, this is actually a playoff team, like a kind of scary one.